Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb on YouTube. And some of you listen to the podcast, but this is the more visual edition. So let's talk about the night sky in March. Thank goodness it's actually warming up a little bit. Oh, wait, it dropped back down to like 17 degrees this morning. But anyway, so March, let's talk about it. Not too much going on. But this is a good time to hone your normal skills of what to look for in a regular night sky, although we do have a lot of planets as well. So let's take a look first at just the planets that are in the sky. Now, let's say it's sunset, and let's go in the middle of March 15th, just to be normal. And we are going to be on daylight savings time after March 8th, I believe, or after March 9th. So I'm going to put daylight savings time on here. But if you take a look, let's say there's the sun. It's the middle of March, and the sun starts to set. It gets darker, and what's in the sky? Oh, first thing you see is up here you've got Jupiter. Okay, that's one of the planets you can see around sunset is Jupiter. It's way up high in the south or in the toward the east after sunset in the beginning of the month. But Jupiter will be out until about 3 a.m. And what's going to happen is, well, first of all, you don't really see anything else around. It's just Jupiter right after sunset. It's about 8:30 p.m. And what's going to happen is throughout the night, Jupiter is going to move to the west, and eventually it's going to set. Okay? And around mid-month, it's going to set around, looks like 3 a.m. Okay? It's going to be down there. So Jupiter's one that you can see, and that's really neat to look through binoculars. You might be able to catch the 4 Galilean moons that you can see. Or with a telescope, you can see that as well, including the cloud bands on Jupiter. Okay. So Jupiter is actually also visible throughout the night for the most part, at least until about 3 a.m. But let's rewind the clock, and let's look to the east and see what pops up throughout the night. And what you see is after 10 p.m., Mars is visible off in the east, okay? And if we go throughout the night, you see that it rises. And then, after midnight, you start seeing Saturn as well. And so you'll see Mars and Saturn both rising up, okay, and moving toward the south, okay? And I have the Milky Way very bright this time. It's probably not that bright for anybody, but it's there. But Mars and Saturn, those two planets, start moving toward the west, and then by about sunrise, they're still up in the sky, off in the southwest area. Okay, yeah. So Saturn and Mars, if you get out after 10 or 12, you can see those. And then in the morning, let me rewind the clock just a little bit. You see Venus. Let me zoom in a little bit. There's Venus. After 5:30, Venus starts rising, and it'll be very, very bright. Very bright. Much brighter than this program is showing you. But Venus will be very, very bright. Up until about sunrise, you'll be able to see it. Up about here, off in the southeast. Venus is very nice. It's the easiest one to see because it's very, very bright. Mercury, yes, technically you should be able to find it. Excuse me. Especially earlier in the month, but I don't know. I don't really have much luck finding Mercury. You kind of need to know what you're doing in order to find it. But those are the planets. So if we review, we've got Jupiter around sunset and throughout the night, Mars throughout the night, and Saturn trailing behind Mars. And in the morning, you'll be able to see Venus in the east, Saturn and Mars in the southwest. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the planets. Let's reset to March 1st, sunset. Let's talk about what sorts of things you might see with the moon as our guide. All right? Let's go a little bit after sunset so it's dark. Now, March 1st is the new moon. Okay? The moon is basically in the same spot in the sky as the sun, though a little bit off because there's no eclipse. And so those are your darkest skies in the beginning of the month. Okay. Then, the next day, the moon is a little bit higher up in the sky. You see it right here. Just barely a crescent. Next night is a little bit higher, a little more crescent. A little more crescent on the 4th and the 5th. zoom out. And then the 6th, oops, 6th, and then the 7th. Let's see, 7th, and then let's see. Let's go 8th, 9th. Let's see. The 8th is when you have the first quarter moon. Okay. And as far as the first quarter moon goes, that means it's visible until about midnight. Okay. And let's change that to moon 7th. And then on Jupiter on the 9th. Okay. On the 9th, there is a close encounter between the moon and Jupiter. It's a little more gibbous, but if you're looking for a time to find Jupiter, do it on March 9th. You'll see it's pretty close by. In fact, if we zoom in, there's Jupiter, and there's the moon. They'll be pretty close. Let's see. So the moon's gibbous. It's the 9th, slightly gibbous. Then nothing really happens until the 16th. Now, the moon is off here in the east. It looks pretty full, and that's exactly what it is. The full moon on the 16th. Let's zoom back out. Now, on the 16th is when the moon rises, when the sun sets, and when the moon sets, the sun rises. Opposite sides of the earth. Yeah, opposite sides of the earth and of time. So, yeah, let's move ahead. Move throughout the night. Okay. Around midnight, the moon will be off in the south. Mars and Saturn will be up. And let's keep going. Let's see. On March 18th and 19th. Okay. March 18th and 19th is when you will see the moon very close to Mars. And if you go a couple days ahead, Saturn on the 21st will be very close to the moon. Or really, the moon will be very close to Saturn from our perspective. If we zoom in, there we go. We've got the moon and Saturn very close by. The moon is in its waning gibbous phase. Okay. That's on the 21st. In the morning of the 21st, so if you go out the night of the 20th, you'll see that. Night of the 20th. Night of the 20th is the spring equinox. That's when you basically have 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, all throughout the earth. I also have a link on Podbean for more links to that give you a little more info. 21st, you got the close encounter with moon and Saturn. Saturn's only about 3 degrees above it, which is pretty neat. Okay. Then if you follow the phases of the moon, 2 days later, okay, you got to get up past 2 a.m. in order to see it, but that's when the last quarter moon is, on the 23rd. You'll be able to see that into the morning. Okay. And again, nothing really happens until it's getting thinner and thinner. Okay. And it's getting closer to the horizon, thinner and thinner, closer to the horizon, and earlier in the morning. And then March 27th, close encounter between Moon and Venus right here. Pretty close. That'll be a good picture to take. In fact, in your camera, you might be able to get this picture. That's pretty close together for the Moon and Venus. But then, another day later, the moon is thinner and thinner, and on the 30th is when we have the new moon, and that is pretty much the end of March. And like I said, not much going on other than those close encounters. So let's go back, and lastly, let's talk about some constellations that you can see. And let's go around sunset. Let's add an hour or two just so it's dark. Let's go 8:30 daylight savings time. Now 8:30 daylight savings time, you'll see Orion over here. Okay. And if I zoom in on Orion, okay, now you can't see the stars in this program, but you see here are the 3 belt stars that make up Orion's belt. Follow them about 20 degrees to the right, and you'll come to this very bright star in Taurus, which is called Aldebaran, okay, right here. And that's about 20 degrees away. That's 2 fist widths. If you hold your arm out, a fist width is 10 degrees, 2 would be 20. That gets you from Orion to Taurus. Then another fist width gets you out here to the Pleiades, a really neat star cluster. Trust me, much cooler looking in the night sky than it is on this program. Okay. Then if we go the opposite way, let's zoom back into Orion. Let's take these belt stars and follow 20 degrees the opposite direction. That is Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. It's part of the constellation Canis Major. Very neat to see those in the night sky as well. Now, if you take a look back, you'll see Gemini is above Orion and Auriga is above Taurus. And these are the winter constellations. Pretty much your last chance to really see them is this month. Maybe April you can catch them, but now's the last time you can really see them for a good part of the night. If you're looking in the opposite direction, okay, you'll see Leo off in the southeast, east-southeast. There's Leo. That means spring is coming. Thank goodness. But anyway, if you're looking straight up at the zenith, okay, that'll be that little red point right there. Around 9 p.m., you'll be able to find Gemini and Auriga. Around midnight, whoops, that should be 12 a.m. Around midnight, you'll be able to see Ursa Major with its legs and Leo the Lion straight up above you. And if you're looking closer to sunrise, about 5 a.m., you'll see Bootes, the Corona Borealis, and Hercules straight up above you. Again, I would suggest going to skymaps.com and downloading and printing one of the sky maps. I think that's one of the easiest ways to figure all this stuff out. But yeah, that's what's going on in the night sky for March. I hope that you have some very clear dark skies to look at and that you also have some good weather.